It is the John Phillips Show. Johnny's on vacation. He'll be back on Monday. It's Randy Wang here. The phone number to join us is 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. You can email us at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. You can search for the John Phillips Show wherever you get your podcasts. If 3 hours of this isn't enough for you, you can listen to unlimited hours of that. And you could also, if you care for it, listen to the fourth hour that I do every single day. That is a local show on our Southern California station, 790 KABC. It airs from 5 to 6, the KABC News Blitz with myself, Randy Wang. If you're in the Bay and you want to check it out, go to kabc.com/newsblitz or search for the KABC News Blitz wherever you get your podcasts or stream it live. There, plug over. Gavin Newsom has been doing a lot of signing ceremonies because he only has a few days to finish signing or vetoing hundreds of bills. Every year, the legislature in California sees our state and finds hundreds of ways to fix it. And then next year, finds hundreds of ways to fix the problems that the last one started. But every once in a while, even though we are in a supermajority and bipartisan support doesn't really matter, there are issues that do have bipartisan support. And there are issues where people can, to use a cliched phrase, go across the aisle and get almost unanimous support. And an issue that is on top of mind for a lot of people these days is the food that we are putting into our bodies. And probably more importantly, if you're a parent, the food that your child is putting into their bodies. And that is why Gavin Newsom said that he was going to sign a bill put forth by my assemblyman, Jesse Gabriel, that would identify and eliminate the sale of what they call ultra-processed foods from school cafeterias, K through 12. No more Cheetos. I got to imagine no more square pizza, where if you put a napkin on it, you can see through it because there's so much grease on it. No more cookies, no more snacks, no more Pepsi vending machines. I swear, when I went to Hart High School in Newhall, California, one of the things that really sticks out, like I don't remember all my teachers. I definitely don't remember all my subjects. I barely remember the friends that I had, but I remember the food. I remember there being Pepsi vending machines outside of every single classroom and all around the quad. And they didn't just have your typical regular size bottles. They had the big bottles, the 20-ouncers. I remember so distinctly stealing change out of my father's drawer so I had 75 cents to get me a wild cherry Pepsi every single day. I remember my cafeteria selling that 25-cent cookie that was like the size of both of your fists put together, and it was delicious. I remember, of course, the food that was made properly in the cafeteria, like the, I'm not making this up, rib sandwich with the outline of fake rib bones in it. And I'm sure this wasn't unique just to my high school, but my high school, which was in a very good school district, was just loaded with fast food. Inside the cafeteria was a mini Taco Bell where you could get for $1.25 a bean and cheese burrito. That's all they had, but it was Taco Bell. And let me just tell you, for the 3.5 years I went to that high school, I had one or two of those every single day. They would have a cart that came out that was a rotator of fast food. On Mondays, it would be Pizza Hut. And they would give you that personal-sized pizza with that plastic little divider that nobody really knows what it does. On Tuesdays, they would have Blimpies, which is a defunct sub place. Wednesdays, it would be Carl's Jr., and you could get the Western cheeseburger. It's like they would make a whole bunch of them, put them in a warmer, and then bring them to the high school, and you could get yourself a Coke and a Western cheeseburger for $5. They had Subway on Thursdays. Boy, our options were limited. And then, of course, once you get to be in junior year, you can go off campus. And that was the best part of my day. I don't remember anything about what I studied in junior year of high school, but I do remember going off campus to Jack in the Box many, 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 many times. Going to the Mongolian barbecue. There were so many restaurants around my high school. And again, I graduated from high school 22 years ago, so it's not that long ago. There were so many places that had these $6 lunch specials. So there was a Chinese restaurant. We'd go there. There was a Mongolian barbecue. We'd go there for the $6 lunch special. The Pizza Hut in my neighborhood had a buffet. $6. Get all the pizza that you want. They even had a pasta. And I use air quotes with pasta because it was just a layer of Pizza Hut cheese with pepperoni on top of some spaghetti. But hey, it was something. My part of the town didn't have a Shakey's Bunch of lunch, but would have loved that. But we had that. We had the pizza. There was even, we would go to the Popeyes chicken, and you could get 8 pieces of legs and thighs for like $8. And my friends would split that with me. And then we'd also get 24 biscuits among the 3 of us. I ate a lot of junk food in high school. A lot of it. So I perked up when I heard that Gavin Newsom was thinking about signing a bill that could ban junk food in public schools. Let's hear what this is all about, and let's hear the reasonings why. Here is a report from KPIX in the Bay.
Ultra-processed foods have been linked to serious health risks, especially in children. Today, California became the first state in the nation to legally define UPFs, ultra-processed foods.
We have to actually come up with a list first to define what are the foods that are giving everyone diabetes. And then we'll decide, yeah, we shouldn't have those in school.
As they begin to...
Although, I guess you can, prevent the sale of it and cancel those contracts, although I'm sure we haven't even thought about, if there's a Taco Bell in the high school, how much money is Taco Bell paying the school district to be there? How much money was Pepsi paying the William S. Hart School District for all those vending machines? That's probably a huge source of funding. And I don't know if you're going to find the same amount of money if you change that contract to Spindrift, which, just as an aside, I don't really understand who's still drinking regular soda because the seltzer waters are great. But I guess some people do.
As they begin to phase them out of K through 12 schools. ABC 7 News South Bay reporter Dustin Dorsey explains why AB 1264 will make a better and healthier Bay Area and state.
Well, it can try, but there's also the issue of, will the kids actually eat if you're putting healthy food? I'm not a parent, so I don't have that much experience with small children. I do have a 3-year-old niece on my wife's side, and I have a 4-year-old nephew on my that's my brother's. And let me just tell you, from spending time with that 3-year-old and that 4-year-old, children don't like to eat food. If you tell them that we're going to have a meal, they don't want it. If you tell them that they can have a snack, oh, they're all about it. Z-bars, go-go squeeze yogurts, all about that. But you want them to actually consume real food in a meal? They're not going to do it. It doesn't matter if you peel the skin off that apple. The only way I'm having that apple if it's slathered in peanut butter. And maybe this is just unique to the small children in my family that I know about. But when I was a small child, I had no problem eating. But that might explain why I got up to 290 pounds. Don't worry, I'm down to 217. Thank you so much, Dr. Filippini.
Landmark legislation in California with support from both sides of the aisle, and now complete with a signature from Governor Gavin Newsom. The Golden State has made it a golden rule: no ultra-processed foods in schools. A first-in-the-nation law aimed to improve the health and nutrition of children.
You know, I had a buddy in high school who had the meal tickets because he was low income. And it was kind of a running gag. The meal ticket would get you at recess a milk and a little tiny little tortilla bowl side salad, like a tostada salad with ranch dressing. And you know what he did with that tostada salad with ranch dressing almost on a daily basis? We would sit at this table out where all the people were hanging out during breaks, and we'd play cards. And inside the table was like this little round space where the pole was, and he would try to shove the tostada salad in there. He wasn't going to eat the tostada salad. You can provide healthy food in schools. I don't know if the kids are going to eat them. And I got to imagine there's no way you can stop unless you're stopping frisking every kid from walking in the school from then bringing in their own Skittles.
It's a movement that should unite all of us, regardless of political stripes. And it's a movement that we have a requirement to advance.
This is really very simple. Food should make our kids healthy.
Are you saying that hot Cheetos are not healthy? Or the weird Chester's fries, is that still a thing?
Food should not make our kids sick.
The governor was joined by his partner, Jennifer Newsom, for the announcement in Los Angeles County. Already the leader in banning artificial food dyes and additives, California lawmakers targeted ultra-processed foods. For the first time, AB 1264 legally defines UPF as high in saturated fat, added sugar or sodium, and with at least one additive such as flavor, color, emulsifier, or a thickening agent.
Wait, you can't have an emulsifier? So I guess mayonnaise is out? They have to actually put together the list of what these foods are, so we'll see what it ends up being. But that is fairly broad of all the food that I did like when I was in school.
Foods high in calories, low in nutrients, with increased chances of health risks. Items that are often staples in cafeterias.
I mean, you could put a salad bar in the school. I don't know if the kids are going to eat it. Maybe kids are more health conscious now than, when I was a kid, which wasn't that long ago.
It made absolutely no sense to me. We don't love our kids any less than they love their kids in Europe or Asia or Latin America.
See, a lot of this goes back to, and the Maha movement is all about this as well, is we're finally all coming together and we want the weirdly discolored but all natural Fruit Loops that Britain has. We don't care for the neon colors anymore. Give us that weird pale green because that's an all-natural food flavoring. I don't want no artificial dyes in my sugar candy.
So why would we offer them less protection from products linked to cancer and cardiovascular disease and reproductive harm?
What happens with this bill when Halloween or Valentine's Day comes? Can you still bring all the candy bars?
Those who oppose the law have concern that the bill limits choice, leads to fewer products available, and could create financial burden for school districts.
And I would imagine that is because these school districts have very lucrative contracts with these companies. Frito-Lay, Pepsi, I think that's all one corporation, Nabisco, whoever it is. The people who make the snacks, the salties and the sweets and the sugaries and all the beverages. I got to imagine, and I don't know, but I don't think they're getting their products inside the school cafeteria for free. I think you got to pay for that privilege. And if we take that away, that might be less money for Cecily.
Get that money!
Although an analysis of the bill says the cost to schools is unknown because it's not known which foods would be eliminated. Supporters of the bill disagree with the concerns.
We have already built a blueprint and shown what success can look like. And while our work is far from over, I have no doubt that California will continue to raise the bar for school food because the future always happens here first.
Boy, she says the same cliched lines that her husband does.
The California Department of Public Health will begin to phase out these ultra-processed foods. Vendors who provide the food to the schools will have until 2032 to comply with the new law.
Can you do baked lays? Is that okay?
The California Dustin Dorsey, ABC 7 News.
I'd love to know, especially if you have kids in school, whether you're in Southern California or Northern California, what you think about this. Because I feel like we are at an age where people are paying way more attention to what exactly it is that we're consuming. I think there's a lot of people that saw the generation of fat kids in high school and wanted to see what we can do about that. So this is Gavin Newsom. He signed this bill. It apparently has bipartisan support, came from San Fernando Valley Assemblyman Jesse Gabriel. It will identify and phase out what they call ultra-processed foods in California schools. Do you think this is the right approach? Do you think we should ban ultra-processed foods from California cafeterias? Or do you think this is the state going way too far? Get on the line right now and tell me how you feel about this. 800-222-5222. 1-800-222-5222. Do you agree that the state of California should ban ultra-processed foods from California schools? Get on the line right now. 800-222-5222. 1-800-222-5222. Whether you're a teacher, a parent, if you work in the schools, you want to talk about this, tell me what you think. 800-222-5222. 1-800-222-5222. Gavin Newsom just signed a bill that will identify and ban ultra-processed foods from California schools. Do you think this is the right approach, or do you think this is going too far? Let's start with Walter in Burlingame. Walter, hello.
Hi. I've never called into a show before, but I'm certainly hope that the government shutdown lasts forever. But we got to stop feeding this junk to these kids in public schools. It's destroying them. And so I'm actually on Newsom's side on this one, and I didn't think I'd ever say that. We aren't stopping them from deciding what to eat in their home or buy after school at the store. That's their business. But we can't, as a state, feed them this junk and basically poison them.
I think you make a really strong point. Thanks so much for the call, Walter. I appreciate it. And look at that. Adding Burlingame to the wall of places that it's the first time I noticed a call from there before. Love to see it. Let's go to Ken in San Jose. Ken, hello.
Hello, thank you. I say no, don't ban anything like that. To get a processed food, that means they're not cooking in the kitchens. Now that they're not cooking in the kitchens, they're having stuff delivered to them. Now that they're not going to have certain other processed foods delivered to them, what are the kids eventually going to eat?
That is a good question, because if Sloppy Joes count as a ultra-processed food, I think they're just going to have bread.
Yeah, because they don't want the parents sending the foods in their lunches because those are unhealthy according to some districts. So they can't bring their food in from home. They're not cooking it in the kitchens at the schools, and so what are the kids going to eat?
That's a really good question. Appreciate it, Ken. If you ever watch any of these videos of like the process of running a school cafeteria where you are serving, 1,000, 2,000 students a day, and you have to think about like what kind of food can you make in that mass quantity in that short amount of time. So yeah, there's going to have to be some thought put into this, and ultimately, will the kids eat it is a whole other question. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. Gavin Newsom just signed a bill that will identify and ban what they call ultra-processed foods from California schools. Do you agree with that, or do you think this is California going too far? 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. We're going to the phones right now at 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. Gavin Newsom just signed a bill that will identify and ban ultra-processed foods from California schools. Do you agree, or do you think this is going too far? Let's get right back to the phones, and we'll start with Andrea in Fremont. Andrea, hello.
Hi, thank you for taking my call. I absolutely believe that they should ban all that from our children's cafeterias. There's been plenty of studies that it leads to behavioral problems and developmental issues. So, yes, Gavin Newsom is doing something right for once.
Well, and it's funny how long it took us to come to this point. Why do the Cheetos need to be red to begin with?
Well, it has all that red 40 and yellow 5 in it and all that, and that's terrible. It should be banned, period, from our country.
I think, you look at who's in charge of HHS right now, and this is something that there seems to be some bipartisan agreement on. Thanks so much for the call. Appreciate it. And it's been a joke for a really long time, but yeah, you go to other countries and the Fruit Loops are a different color. It's still sugary cereal, but it doesn't have those artificial additives and those artificial dyes. And look, let me just say, as a big fan of drinking tequila, I always make sure that when I'm sipping a nice añejo, that my tequila is 100% additive free. So I am all in agreement on getting rid of additives in everything. Let's go to Alan in Long Beach. Alan, hello.
Hey, John. How are you?
Doing great.
You guys have the right intent. Yeah, good, awesome. You have the right intent, but you cannot legislate people from eating junk food. It ain't going to happen. You need to subsidize healthy food, fruits, and vegetables. You got to stop subsidizing high fructose corn syrup. So, as usual, Gavin Newsom is wrong. You can't legislate people from eating potato chips. Walter, you're on the right idea, but you got the wrong method.
Well, I think you make a really strong point, and it is interesting, when you look at the foods that are allowed to be bought on our food assistant programs, whether it's SNAP or CalFresh in the state of California, you're allowed to buy all that kind of junk food on the government's dime, and those kind of subsidies go two ways. Yes, the person receiving the assistance is getting a subsidy, but so is the producer of the junk food when they're getting a whole bunch of government money paid for their products.
And we need to stop that. I have 2 teenage children, and they would eat fresh strawberries and fresh fruits if it was much cheaper than potato chips. I got to go. I'll tell you one more thing. Well, it'll take too long.
Well, I got time. I'm here till 3.
Okay. I ran a cafeteria in a high school the last 3 years, and because I didn't have a kitchen or a staff, I was forced to serve fast food. And we changed that by hiring a food service company that provides fresh food in a cafeteria at a high school.
I think
go ahead.
That's great. I love to hear that. That's really important. So what were you guys having to serve before that? Just chicken nuggets?
Well, we served fast food stuff. Chick-fil-A, Pollo Loco, pizza from a pizza place, which was okay. What else do we have? Pickup sticks. Now we have 7 or 8 cooks in the kitchen making fresh food every day.
I love to hear that. That's great. Thanks so much for the call, Alan. Appreciate it. I'm all about it. Maybe we need more programs teaching cooking in the schools. Maybe you can have internships where the students learn cooking. I wish that I had learned to cook way earlier than when I did. Because, yes, for a good portion of my 20s before I met my now wife, I ate nothing but junk and got up to almost 300 pounds. Let's go to Rita in Los Angeles. Rita, hello.
Yes. Hi, Randy. So, yes, of course, I agree with the governor's choice not to provide those types of foods. So, unlike the last caller, he's not regulating or tell people what to eat. But as far as what the state would provide, he has control of that. And, you actually proved my point, confirmed my point when you shared that you ate so much junk food and you can't remember any of the names of your teachers.
I think I can remember one, but he stuck out because we would just play board games and read zoo books all the time. That was Mr. Jolly. But other than that, I honestly couldn't tell you the name of any of my teachers in 4 years of high school.
See what all that junk food caused?
This is when I was as straight as an arrow kid. I didn't drink, I didn't do drugs, but I ate a whole bunch of crap every day.
And by the way, that one teacher's name you could remember, that was that occasional apple you had. So.
Exactly. Well, thanks so much for the call, Rita. Appreciate it. It's wild to think about. I remember the name of some of my teachers in elementary school, Miss Todd in the 6th grade. I couldn't tell you the name of anybody in junior high or anybody in high school. None of them stick out. Now, I wasn't really paying attention. I was just doing the homework in class and trying to find times to play Game Boy. But hey, I got straight B's. I ended up in radio. You can call that a cautionary tale if you want to. Let's go to Thomas in San Clemente. Thomas, hello.
Hey, the reason I called is that as far as I'm concerned, the Gavin Newsom shell game is going on. I mean, he might say something that sounds good, but I have a hard time believing anything that comes out of this Democratic administration of the state. This is a clickbait type thing, good feeling. Will it follow through? I doubt it.
Well, that is always the question is, it's one thing to sign legislation. How is it implemented? Who's going to be in charge of identifying these foods? Who's going to be in charge of canceling those contracts with the fast food providers or Pepsi? And if the schools are going to lose funding because of that, how exactly are you going to replace that? There are a lot of questions of how exactly this is implemented. And to your point, Gavin Newsom is always flashy headline, little follow through.
Define ultra-processed. That could be pasteurized milk.
Well, that's the thing. It's not defined right now, and they need to put together an advisory board to define it. So we'll see what that means. Thanks so much for the call, Thomas. Appreciate it. What we did hear in the story is that additives could include emulsifiers. So I guess that's most salad dressings. I don't know. We're going to find out. Let's go to Bill in Granada Hills. Bill, hello.
Hey, how's it going? There's two things that are going on here. One is the quality of the food. And two, I talked to my daughter when she was in elementary school, and she said no matter what they gave them, 80-90% of the food went into the trash. They didn't like it. I don't care. The quality of flavor is just not there. So then you got kids in the afternoon who don't have food, they don't have energy, and they have behavioral problems. Then when they go home, they say, hey, can I have a cookie? And the parents say, did you eat lunch? They said, oh, yeah, I ate lunch. Then they get a bunch of cookies, and then they wonder why the kids have diabetes. We need to have food that the kids will eat.
That is a really, really important part of this story, especially for elementary school kids. Young kids don't eat food. The biggest struggle that I see my brother-in-law or my brother go through with their kids is getting their kids to eat.
The kids don't eat it at school, and then they have PE, and then they go and they have the classroom time, and they can't think. They act out. There's problems. There's a problem at home. No, they just don't have the right energy to be able to function in school. And like I say, they go home, then they have treats and candy. And how does the body react to that? Well, it stores it as fat as quickly as possible because it doesn't know when it's going to eat again.
That is very, very true. And I think I'm a case study in all of that. Thanks so much for the call. I can remember so many times where my friend who had the lunch tickets, and now every kid gets the lunch ticket, would just throw it all away. All the food would just go in the trash. Let's go to Chris in San Jose. Chris, hello.
Hey, John. I just always think there's a different agenda with, Newsom. So it might sound like a good thing, but I think what's probably hiding is either no action to see it through or another tax, a school tax that's going to build up the kitchens and staff them for people to cook fresh food. But then your last caller said the kids have to eat it. You know, I have a 6-year-old. I'm Greek. My wife's Italian. My mother lives in the ADU behind me, and she eats like lamb and pasta and meatballs and octopus, and it's amazing. The girl, I mean, she's like one of us when we go out and eat or we do home cooked meals. So it kind of starts at the home, you know, if you have the patience and, you know, to cook fresh food for your kids so they know the difference.
Oh, I think you definitely got to install those behaviors early, and I'm jealous of your household, Chris. That sounds like you're eating good every day of the week.
We're like the first generation living here. Our parents were both immigrants, and, I mean, it's very fragile, you know, so I even tell people that, you know, have a lot of hate in their hearts in these times with religion and stuff and culture. I'm like, when you come here, you can lose it in one generation. So if you want to keep, you know, being, you know, Greek or Italian or Chinese, like, go live in those countries because they're not sustainable here. You know, your kids marry out one generation and that's it. You lose the language, you lose part of the culture. It's crazy how fragile it is.
Well, as long as you keep the food, that's the most important part of it to me. But I really appreciate the call, Chris. Thanks so much for the call. Appreciate it. You know, my parents cooked, both of them. I refused to eat most of the food they would cook. Ew, salmon on the barbecue? No, I want frozen pizza. And usually, probably because I was a brat, I'd get away with it. My brother lived on frozen burritos for pretty much his entire formative years. But I don't know if we, you know, I got to imagine it is a huge struggle to get kids to eat real food. I have seen it. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. Gavin Newsom signed a bill that will identify and ban ultra-processed foods in California schools. Do you agree, or do you think this is going too far? 800-222-5222. Johnny's back on Monday. If you'd like to email us, you could do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. Robert writes in and says, my younger brother, when he went to high school, secretly sold snacks that weren't available at the vending machines. His top seller was hot Cheetos fries. My mom would even buy snacks in bulk from Costco, and my brother made the profit. With this bill passing, the snack dealers will be making money now that those options are reduced. And what's so funny about that is as soon as I read that, I remember a kid in my junior high school who did that, who sold bulk candy and other snacks out of his backpack. There's going to be a lot of entrepreneurial kids out there that are going to be selling back alley Skittles. I do love the ingenuity. Let's go to Matthew in Petaluma. Matthew, hello.
Hello, sir. How you doing?
Doing great.
I just was going to share, I was going to make this prompt a little bit different. I just want to say that obviously we're talking about Gavin Newsom and are you for it or against it, but kind of just going back to, putting some responsibility on parents. I think it's important that, my mom instilled really great health habits for me. She was always cooking, and I know that there's, different financial situations for every family, but I think that there's probably a lot of people who are, lacking in the types of efforts that my mom was making in order to sacrifice so that I could have, good food on the table, not have diabetes. And I just think that, yes, I want to, I don't agree with Gavin Newsom on pretty much anything, but we really got to internally reflect and stop depending so much on our government to solve our problems for us. Because if kids want bad snacks, they're going to get them one way or another. So it's better to instill the value at the root rather than having, trying to limit what people can get. Because I don't know. What do you think about that?
I think those are very important values to instill on kids. I think it can be very difficult, but if you can achieve that, if you can get small children to appreciate home-cooked meals and appreciate quality food, that's setting themselves up for a life of success. So I do love that. Thanks so much for the call, Matthew. Appreciate it. Let's go to Rex and Bishop. Rex, hello.
Howdy.
Howdy.
Place in Santa Monica. Have a
neighbor who was a school teacher in the Valley, and when Mike Obama, the first lady a number of years ago, had that healthy lunch initiative, she was bringing home bags of fruit every day that the kids weren't eating.
I do remember lots and lots of images of food going in the trash, and that's going on every day, and that's not going to change. Kids there is something about school-age kids that enjoy throwing away food.
Well, it starts at home. They got to teach them healthy.
Makes a good point. Thanks so much for the call, Rex, and let's go ahead and add Bishop to the wall. I think that's the first call I can remember from Bishop. Let's go to John in Santa Monica. John, hello.
Hello. Yeah, I agree with somebody said earlier that 80 to 90% of the food's being thrown in the trash. We have a friend that works in the LAUSD, and the kids grab stuff. But many, many years ago, when I went to high school in Arizona, they had ladies that came in and cooked meals fresh every day, and they were delicious. And, you know, people quit bringing sack lunches and started eating in the cafeteria because, you know, every day was something different, and it was presented well and it's nutritious. And that's what they need to get back to, you know, whether the school districts hire the people or they hire a company, you know, to provide it, whatever is most economically feasible. But then they do, like you say, they need to order or cook stuff that's healthy and that the kids will eat. And it may take a little work to find out, you know, what the kids really like, but serve them what they like and what they'll eat, not what you think they'll like and what you think they'll eat. And that's all.
It's a delicate balance, but it is something worth looking towards and trying to achieve. Thanks so much for the call. Appreciate it. My 3-year-old niece, she goes to daycare every day, and you know what she likes? She likes Fridays because she can have fish sticks. And I think it's the only time she ever eats any kind of meat that's not like cheese. Loves those fish sticks. Let's go to Kirk listening in Dayton, Nevada. Kirk, hello.
Hey, how you doing? Hey, I love your guys' show. I'm kind of old school. This program or this law should have never been passed. It's my opinion. You spawned them, you feed them. It isn't our job. I've never seen a starving kid, and I'll relay one thing to you. When I retired, I substituted down in Carson City, and got to watch the breakfast. The kids literally were throwing away the 8-ounce unopened milks and the apple. I took it back to the serving lady and said, "What's this about?" She goes, "More or less, if we don't, show the volume, they reduce us. It's kind of a use it or lose it mentality." I'm from the days of sack lunches. Eat what the heck you want. I don't, but it shouldn't be the burden to feed someone else's child shouldn't be on the taxpayer.
Well, in California, that has almost been that's like the most important part for Gavin Newsom is making sure the kids are fed. The education comes second, and that was very true during COVID. Thanks so much for the call. Appreciate it. Were you at LAUSD passing out food at all these pickup centers and then putting the kids on Zoom so they could not learn?
Our babies.
All right, we got time for one more call. Let's go to Ray in San Francisco. Ray, hello.
Hi. Just wanted to touch base and say that to get right to the heart of the matter is you put public in front of it, and it's a mistake. Public schools were a product of the progressive era, and we should have all schools now should be private, and we should give our property taxes back to our taxpayers and not waste any time on any of these things that we're talking about, because they're also feeding them garbage in their lessons as well as the food that they're feeding them.
Well, there definitely is a lot of that going on, especially at places like LAUSD or San Francisco Unified or Oakland Unified. Thanks so much for the call. Appreciate it. We are out of time, but I'm sure we'll get back to this. I got to hop on the 405 so I can have a quick lunch and then go do my local show from my home studio. The News Blitz with Randy Wang airs 5 to 6 every day on 790 KABC. If you're in the Bay and you want to check it out, go to KABC.com. We'll see you tomorrow from noon to 3 for Jimmy Buffett Friday on The John Phillips Show.